Hey there and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, go ahead and use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You can also check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And now for Adam Littlefield.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. This is our Sunday edition of Tech Talk, so we've got a ton of different segments to talk about today. We're going to be talking a lot about what your web browser can be doing for you. It's capable of a lot more than I really always thought about, and more than I think what I would trust. So we'll get a little bit into that. We'll also talk a little bit about some IT plans that we have available at Refresh Computers, just talk about those. So if you're a business, I would definitely suggest tuning into that next segment. We're also going to be talking about data centers and kind of why Florida, we've been seeing them pop up more and more lately. That'll be, I think, a really interesting one for us to get into. And at the end, we'll get another quick tip into, how you can actually check a link before clicking on it. And that, I think, is going to be an important one for a lot of our listeners. So let me start off very broad with this one. I've always been a big push for AI. I always have been, and this is something that is a little new to me. It's something I have to play a little bit with before I can fully back it, but it is something that a lot of our browsers now are capable of doing or are being changed to be able to do it.
Whether you agreed to it or not.
Exactly.
In some cases.
So your web browser, now they're integrating ways for it to be able to shop, book appointments, and click around for you. And I guess the biggest question in the air, and kind of I guess what I started this off with to feel like, is should you let it do that?
Right.
So, this isn't something I want to say is new specifically, but it is something that is finally being pushed to the masses. I've seen that this has been going through a lot of testing for a while, which is basically allowing agentic AIs to interact and use your web browser that doesn't just show you website, but it actually will use them for you.
Now, we've used the word agentic a few times. What exactly does agentic mean when it comes to these processes?
So, to put it in plain English, basically agentic AI means the AI can do almost anything that you're able to do. So your normal internet browser, it's a window to the internet. It shows you a page, and you, the user, you're doing the clicking. You click on the link here, you go and read this article, and you click back, go to this next link. That's what you do. A agentic browser is an assistant. You give it a goal, you tell it something to do, it does the clicking for you. So you tell it in plain language what you want it to do, and it will execute it through your browser, just like you as a person were doing it yourself.
So think of agentic as like agent-like.
Right.
Right.
And the easiest way I explain it is, imagine you just told the computer, you type in, find me a flight to Atlanta under $300 and book it. And you got up from your chair and you let somebody sit down and just lightning fast can click through and load stuff and purchase you that ticket in a fraction of the time that you yourself would have been able to. Us as humans, we have a lot of preference that we end up taking, what airline we want to fly on, what amenities might be there. And, again, that raises the question to me is that something that is taken into consideration when an agentic AI does something like booking a flight?
Right. How detailed can you actually get with this agentic AI to make sure it's, again, preferences are there for a reason. It's because that's what you prefer.
Yeah.
I'm rather picky when it comes to booking things like hotels or even like rental cars, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want the very cheapest thing. I don't want the most expensive either. I want to figure out what exactly fits best within my budget, but also checks the most boxes for me.
Right. And, we have done some talking before about how AI can start learning you as an individual. We've talked about that with ChatGPT, Grok, Claude. They can kind of remember some details about you, so they can understand that, that Mike over here is 6'7" and he probably wouldn't want a regular crammed seat on an airliner. Maybe he wants the one with a little bit more leg room. With this agentic AI, I don't believe it has the capability just yet to take something like that into consideration.
And especially when you consider a lot of those kind of what we're talking about with these remembrances that the AI systems can have for you, a lot of those are getting more and more locked behind paywalls than what they were even just a couple of months ago. So that's something else to consider, is if you're utilizing some of these free services through your browser as opposed to your paid for subscription that you might have.
Exactly right. A lot of these services that can do this are now becoming monthly subscriptions. Almost feels like everything else in our lives now are becoming monthly subscriptions. Why not our assistant be like that as well? And, the way I kind of look at that is, a lot of businesses, a lot of CEOs, for example, they will hire an assistant that can manage a lot of stuff that an agentic AI would be able to do. Could make appointments, could schedule appointments for you at places, book lunches. But again, the problem is the human factor, the personable factor as well, and the preference.
Right.
It's I have to do a little bit of playing, I think, to really be able to back something like this. But again, it does have its uses.
Sure, absolutely. And I mean, we're getting into some more of the niche aspects of this. This is supposed to kind of just be for like a quick check on a lot of these things, right? We're kind of getting into like the weeds of it a little bit, where eventually those Tesla robots will be able to go pick up your dry cleaning for you as well. But I think that there's a big part of what AI seems to miss on is the nuance of a lot of these situations.
And, a lot of what I call that nuance, because a lot of what I see for AI that's being applied to autonomous vehicles right now, they refer to scenarios like that as edge cases. Basically the 0.1% possibility or the 1% possibility happening that the AI may make the wrong decision. And something like this, there is a lot of preference, but, let me get a little bit into the useful stuff, because there is, some stuff I can think of that would be useful for this. Good example would be comparing prices. If you've got an item that you want to just pay the best price for, you can go into an agentic browser, tell it to compare prices across, 5-10 different stores. You could have it go through and fill out the same info, on form after form. Simple things like that, digging an old receipt out of, maybe your emails. Yep. All of these are useful ways to use this. And I'll tell you, a couple of these, me personally, I go to Grok or Gemini to do right now. Things like setting reminders, comparing prices. So to have it built into the browser instead of having to go to a website, I think that's something that could be genuinely useful. A lot of the power of AI bots like Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, just to name a few of them, like Greg had mentioned, are behind paywalls. So it's interesting to me to have the ability inside of your browser now built in. So let me get a little bit more into that as well. Maybe you're someone that just finds crawling the internet just frustrating. You don't want to click through 7, 8, 10, 20 different websites to try and find what you're looking for. An agentic AI in your browser may actually benefit you a lot for that sort of situation. Are there any situations you can think of, Greg, that you might use something like this? Well,
if I'm someone like our good friend Dave, who has 5,000 tabs open on my computer, it might be helpful to use something like this to find a specific tab. Things like that. I've also thought about if you're someone who's big into sports, it can very, very much help you try and find some certain statistics and how to interpret those and things like that. I can see that being very helpful as well.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about, the sports angle that you could have on it. I'm sure this is something that may be able to help like stock traders even in the future. Talking about all of this, what it can do for you. Here's the part that kind of makes me a little reserved about it is when you have something that can do a lot of stuff like this, there's a lot of stuff it can do to you because there's a lot of information you have to give it. And you don't really know what it may be capable of to do this.
Yeah, not thinking just off the top of my head, our main focus on this has been something like shopping.
Right.
Well, if you're going to let it buy tickets for you, it has to have access to your payment information, right?
And if it has payment to your payment information, you don't know if it's suddenly going to mess up and buy 1,000 rolls of triple ply toilet paper.
I didn't need to buy out the entire airplane. I just needed one ticket.
Yep. Exactly. It is situations like that. And, let me put it in like a broad idea here. On your computer, you're logged into things like your email, your bank, shopping accounts, all of those accounts that assistant will have access to, almost like somebody that can sit in front of your computer. Whatever you have access to, they have access to. And through your browser, they are acting as you with all of your access. With your permission.
We mentioned agent-like, and so imagine if you had that person sitting at your desk and you handed them your debit card to go pick up your dry cleaning, like I mentioned earlier. That's exactly what you're doing right now. It's just all virtual.
Exactly. And, there, like always with technology, there are new scams and new things that are going to be coming out that can actually cause a lot of problems with this sort of information access. I know a brand new kind of attack is called a prompt injection. Basically, what that means is there's a booby-trapped web page. It has just hidden instructions that can hijack the assistant. As the assistant's, looking through that web page to try and find information, it may find those instructions that hijack the entire assistant, tell it to do something you never even asked, and it'll, like forwarding emails or making a purchase, and you may not even know it happened until it's too late. AI thinks a lot faster than myself and a lot of people. Most humans, AI reacts and can do stuff faster than any human can. So giving it a lot of this access is a little uncomfortable to me.
Right. And especially, like you mentioned, all of the new scams that we've been monitoring that have been coming out based around AI. So again, we're talking about how AI can help you in these situations. AI comes right back around and can be used on the other side of these situations as well. So what are some really kind of tips that we can maybe use to kind of protect ourselves from these situations too?
Well, the best thing I would recommend is to supervise it. A lot of AI stuff right now is supervised. It's on the tag of some AI, it's not on the tag of others, but if you are interacting and using AI, don't walk away and just let it do its thing, especially if it's an agentic AI.
Watch the kids in the sandbox.
Exactly. Watch what's going on, watch what it's doing. Imagine it's like you're watching a new employee on their first day, that you've kind of just let them take the reins. See what they're going to do, see how they do it. I do know that most of these agentic AIs do allow you as well to jump in and stop whatever it is running. So if it's getting somewhere that you don't want it getting into or it starts going off the rails, that's a way to save yourself. Never turn it loose on your bank, your health records, anything that has to do with your money. Keep all of those out of its reach. Maybe set up an account specifically that is only for the AI spending, only give it funds of what you're comfortable of it possibly running away and losing. It is a chance. But also treat it like a sharp but kind of gullible intern. It'll be very fast and helpful, but remember, you are still in charge, and there could be something on a website that tells it to go off the rails. I did see a news story back on Thursday night that actually kind of made me think about it a little bit with Anthropic. I saw that several of their AI models had left containment of their testing environment and independently accessed 3 organizations without anybody's knowledge at the time, and something like that was nothing more than a misconfiguration that just allowed unintended internet access in their network. That's it. So if it's something small like that a large company like Anthropic can have an AI run away and do that because it had access, kind of think about it before you let your agentic AI, start booking those appointments and those hotel rooms for you. But again, if it sounds like something you'd use, give it a try. Supervise it. Take some of the tips that I just said into effect so that way you can kind of protect yourself. If you missed any of those as well, go to refreshcomputers.net, click on the podcast link, listen back to this first segment, listen to the whole show because we've got a lot of other segments coming up. I believe we're going to a break now. When we get back, we're going to be getting a little bit into our managed IT services, what we do at Refresh Computers. And, if you're a business, I would suggest maybe listening in. This could very, very benefit you.
You've been listening to a Sunday edition of Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with Adam Littlefield of the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, we'd love to hear it. Utilize that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. And now, back to Adam.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for listening to this Sunday edition of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. If you missed any of our previous segment, we talked a lot about AI, how it's coming into your browser, what you may be able to do with it now. Go to refreshcomputers.net. Click that podcast link in the top right corner. Just listen back to the show. There was a lot of information we talked about there, a lot of good stuff that can be done for you. But there's also a lot of risks to consider. You know, computers, nowadays, it's kind of, I want to call it almost the Wild West. There's just a lot going on all the time. There's always new scams. And with this segment, actually, I'm going to get a little bit into some programs that we run at Refresh Computers that can help you as a consumer or you as a business protect yourself a little bit, especially with all these changes going on. So let me get a little bit into the consumer program we have. It's called Refresh Plus. It's a consumer level managed IT service. So pretty much what that is we have a manager that we install to your system that'll let us just monitor the hardware. We'll get any notifications if there's any errors that are going on, if there's any hardware like imminent failures that may be coming up. Some hardware does give errors that we do catch. We also do get reports about any viruses that may be caught. We do provide antivirus with Refresh Plus. Another thing that we provide as well is 3 free remote sessions a year. Normally our remote sessions are $50 per 30 minutes. So you'll get 3 of those 30-minute segments with Refresh Plus. I believe the sign-up cost for that is only $90 a year right now. So, you know, $50 per remote session, that's already going to stack up to $150 value. And the nice thing with Refresh Plus is it also does give you access that if you ever had to bring your system in, you're put into our technicians' priority queue. So if yours comes in and they've got a queue of 5 or 6 other machines, yours is going to be pushed right to the front of it. So as a consumer, you know, if this is something that interests you, give us a call. Our phone number is 407-478-8200. This is something that I've gotten set up on hundreds of our customers' computers now, and I have not had a single complaint from any of our customers about this service. It is nice to really have an IT that you can personally call on when you're not at work.
Exactly. Now, let's say I am a small business owner, but I'm so small that I can't really afford my own IT group there on at my office or even within my building. Do you guys have an option for some managed IT for that as well?
We do, yes. We call it Refresh Managed IT. That is a sliding scale program, so the cost of it will really depend on how many systems you enroll to the program. That's something that you can always call and talk to our store manager, Casper. He'd be one of the best guys to talk to with about that. Our managed IT services handles everything that our consumer one was that I mentioned previously. Things like active monitoring, security, updates, support, all of that. We do also offer a ransomware rollback feature as well as backups for additional cost. Again, depends on, you know, what amount of systems and storage. So the managed IT is a nice sliding scale for your business. And like Greg was saying, if you are a small business owner and don't really have the access to get a full managed, you know, like person in home or in office, managed IT from Refresh Computers, I think, is your next best bet because we also do offer on-site visits with this program. I believe that also does scale with the amount of machines you have, but we can provide on-site services with this, just like we do as our regular on-site services, but with this, they're included into the price.
And it's so key to have that on-site able to help you out in the moment IT, right, as opposed to some random 800 number. You can actually have somebody in your local area that'll come and take care of that service call for you.
Exactly. And if you have any questions, give us a call. Our number is 407-478-8200. Ask for me, Adam, or our store manager, Casper. If you have any questions about Refresh Plus, the consumer level, or managed IT, which is our business level. I think we're going to another break here. So when we get back, we're going to be talking about why Central Florida is becoming the next hot center for data centers.
You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, we'd love to hear it. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. Don't forget to check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net, or you can always stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And now, back to Adam Littlefield.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. Right here on Sunday, I believe it's August 2nd. Can't believe it's already August.
Where did July go? My goodness.
I know. I didn't even notice that yesterday was August 1st. July went by so fast. So before we get into this segment, I do just want to give a quick mention that we are within our tax-free holiday season right now. So if you have a Windows 10 computer sitting around and it's not eligible for upgrade to Windows 11, check out our website, refreshcomputers.net. We've got our whole live inventory there that you can browse through. All of those machines that you see on the website are available in-store as well. So if you want to see it, come by our store tomorrow. We open up at 9 a.m. And any of those devices, we can go ahead and show you. And again, any purchases, any units that are under $1,500 are going to be tax-free. So there is no better time really to do that sort of upgrade right now, especially with school season coming back so soon. So enough of that. Let's get into this segment, something that I know we've talked a little bit about in the past, data centers.
Oh, buddy.
So data centers, just to give a quick rundown just for any of our listeners who aren't really familiar with them, these enormous warehouse buildings, they're football field sized buildings that are filled with computers. These large data centers are what are running a lot of our AI that we use. They also manage a lot of cloud services that are being utilized. So files that are stored in Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, all of those are stored in data centers. A lot of questions that you may ask AI or just anybody that's using AI, a lot of that is actually ran through a computer in a data center and sent back to your phone or your computer when you're interfacing with it. So why Florida? We actually had a new bill, a new Florida law go into effect on July 1st that changed a lot of the regulations on these data centers. And, last week, the lawmakers in Orlando were even debating how far to let it go. There's been a lot of changes on data centers, and Florida's kind of gotten the big target on its back now. It used to be the state of Virginia, believe it or not, that was being loaded up with data center after data center. And Virginia, I think, actually has so many of them now that I believe a quarter of that state's power grid is being used entirely for data centers.
My goodness. And I think that's why you've seen such a major push from a lot of these states that are getting proposed for these increases in AI data centers to increase their power output. You're seeing more applications and the re-interest into nuclear power. You're seeing some of the older plants actually being recommissioned, including right here in Central Florida. So it's definitely a process that's been changing some things when it comes to how our electricity is put together.
Right. And the unfortunate side effect, I would say, with AI is only as good as how much computing power it has. And to get AI to where it is now, we have to have tons of data centers that are crunching tons and tons of information to get a lot of these AI as good as they are now. We as humans have our brain, our own, neural net, I'll call it, because that's what AIs run on, are neural nets. Our brain is able to do all of that processing on board for everything we do in everyday life. So data centers are kind of that by 1,000. Yep. The power usage, the physical space usage specifically are two of the main things that are kind of being stressed now with these data centers.
And that's what has made Florida so appealing to a lot of these data center programs, is because of the vast amounts of open land that we still currently have.
Yeah.
Even though we have seen that influx of building here in the state with people moving into Florida in record numbers over recent years, there are still a lot of undeveloped areas.
There are.
But those are becoming fewer and far between, especially when you start putting in these data centers.
Right. And, I always made the jokes to my family that the beaches on Florida keep getting smaller because the state is sinking because we keep building on it. And I don't want to say that these data centers make me feel that way, but they do just a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a hair, little bit. These data centers, they are helping our AI boom. And that's what we're in right now. We are in an AI boom.
Some would say an AI bubble, but you can continue.
Yeah, there are a couple names for it. I was going to say the AI revolution because we are starting to see the transition of AI from just assistance to the physical side of it with robotics, autonomous vehicles. I know you and I were talking in one of the breaks about the United States changing a lot of legislation for autonomous vehicles being introduced into the country.
Right.
So there is a lot of push for AI, and the problem is that part may hit your wallet. And that's the whole point of what this topic is about, because we all take our power off of the same grid. The power that is being used in this recording studio right now, the power that's being used in your home, the power that's being used in my home, there are power grids that we all feed from. The problem, too, is with having all these data centers coming in and just stressing all of our power grids, it could mean that the cost of power may at some point go up from your utility provider. These places use enormous amounts of power, and even just a single large one can use as much electricity as a small city right now.
And you've seen a lot of pushback from local municipalities, like you mentioned, including right here in Orange County and Orlando, but you're even seeing it from the national government. You're seeing recently the Trump administration pushing through that the additional costs of running these kinds of facilities will not be pushed back onto the consumer. Now, exactly how they're going to figure that out and change those around and manipulate that for the power companies is yet to be seen. But it's definitely, I believe, a step in the right direction.
I believe it's a step in the right direction too, but there's a part of me that can't stop thinking about it as electricity is a commodity. It's something that there is a limited amount of that we as just a collection generate in our state, in our municipalities, everywhere. So the fact that there is, that limited amount of production, these AI data centers are taking that up more and more and more. The thing that spooks me a little bit is I remember, I don't even remember how many years ago it was. There was a pretty bad snowstorm that hit Texas. And I wouldn't say it was a pretty bad snowstorm. It was pretty bad because it really showed how easy it was to cripple the electric grid in Texas.
Yeah, specifically Texas.
Right.
Just because of how unique the Texas power grid is compared to the rest of the United States. But it was just a freeze, really, and it really took most of the state offline.
It did. And, the way I'm looking at it is all of this generation of power that we have, I know that we will scale up and start generating more. But our infrastructure and our grid, I don't know what kind of stress that could or could not put on it.
And you're already seeing concerns about it with the increase in electric vehicles around the country.
Right.
You're already seeing concerns from these power companies. Now you're going to add an additional major drain on that system. How exactly are they going to take those steps moving forward to upgrade the grid?
And that's I think just the $1 million question that nobody has the answer to.
Multi-billion-dollar question.
Probably is multi-billion-dollar. And that's I think the twofold part of this is that Florida is a very attractive place for a lot of these data centers to be coming to. We have tons of land. We've got a business-friendly climate. Fiber connectivity has been growing exponentially across the state as well. And, even there's the big players, the ones behind those services are scouting. And they're scouting hard where they can put their next data center. Florida's got pretty much everything they need to just plop it in like a Lego.
And we mentioned some of these municipalities. Some of them have taken a bit of a stand against them, voting against allowing new AI data centers for at least a moratorium period for more review. But there are some other areas that honestly are desperate for the money, and they need the money. They need that influx into their communities. and their commissions are kind of pushing these through whether the people are saying they want it or not.
Exactly. Now, the new law I did mention that took effect July 1st, like you had mentioned, Greg, it aims to stop utilities from shifting that kind of price gouge, I guess I'll call it, off to the consumer. So myself, you, many of our listeners. So, your regular homes, your small businesses, you shouldn't have to pay more to power that operation just because there is a data center sitting in the backyard of that neighborhood or your business, wherever it may be. It actually gives your local city and county some real say about, the rules and if they can say yes or no to a development project like that. It also is going to require some public disclosure on the deals. So, it's not like a lot of their agreements and deals can be made in the shadows and just you watch a data center pop up overnight out of the blue. These are very large buildings and, I'll give it some upsides. These buildings, like I said, they can be multiple football fields in size. So that's establishing construction jobs. Those are massive construction projects. There's tax revenue to be had from the construction, the property, and just being part of modern tech economy instead of watching it pass by for a lot of these companies. If they don't take the leap, they're going to get left behind. As a business, just viewing it as that if they don't push their data centers and just let somebody else roll with the ball, there's going to be a lot of companies falling off.
Like you mentioned, there are a lot of incentives that are going out right now to try and promote the building of these AI data centers, especially from the national government. Again, I'll mention it again, the Trump administration very much in favor of continuing the development of AI across the country, especially when it comes to the AI race against China, which we've constantly said has seemed to have taken a quick step up when it comes to AI development. And that a lot of that has to do with whether China's playing the game fair or not. But here in the United States, it is a concern of making sure that we're keeping up on the technology of AI here in the U.S. So we'll see as that continues as the focus of this moving forward.
Right. And, it's been a topic that, myself and Dave and you, Greg, have all talked together about on the radio is kind of the idea of how regulated a lot of this is going to be becoming. Because we do have the digital aspect of the actual AI agents that you can, whatever you're going to use it for, whatever regulations may come on that side. Now we're starting to see it on the hardware side too, where there are a lot of restrictions coming out that are keeping these data centers from, like I said, being put in the back of your neighborhood or behind your business. I do remember a while ago, Elon Musk talking about wanting to put data centers up in space. And, I think we're kind of at an injunction point where that may be the direction we may have to end up going.
And even someone like Elon Musk has gotten pushback on that kind of proposal from other people in the AI space, including Sam Altman, who said that he's insane for thinking that he can put data centers in space. So there's so many ideas on how to get there. And again, we'll continue to talk about this here on Tech Talk because AI isn't going anywhere and neither is Tech Talk. So both are going to keep on going. But I think that there's what really is going to be the big next step is what's the next phase when it comes to memory storage and memory processing, things like that. When is it going to take that next step down? If you get what my drift is, we went from hard disks to now solid state drives that hold multiple gigs. Those are still rather large blades when it comes to these data centers.
Yeah.
What's the next step that we're going to be able to make those even smaller? Hopefully help with some of these electricity problems and concerns and cooling issues that we have with these AI data centers. That'll be the next big step.
And this is something that I've always kind of held close to heart, that technology always is changing. There will always be something new coming out. And, maybe it'll make Dave happy to hear me say this, but I think quantum computers may be the next step for that.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times.
And, the computers running in data centers right now, a lot of them are conventional hardware like, our computers at home or larger, server computers. So it's not like they're running anything foreign right now. But we may see quantum computing become the next logical step to really beef up the efficiency and what it's able to do. And also what, is going to be built next in this state.
Absolutely. If you've been following with these AI data centers, what are your thoughts? Are you okay with the data center maybe going in your backyard, or are you definitely one of those that are against it? Let us know. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. Coming up next, we're going to have our Windows tip of this Sunday.
Yep.
And on Saturday, we're going to have a new one here for you on Sunday coming up right after the break. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline, 407-478-8200. Also, don't forget to check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to Adam.
Thank you, Greg, and I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned into this episode today of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. It's a nice Sunday, and I'm happy to be here just giving just a bunch of information on the air. We talked a lot about data centers today. We talked a lot about agentic AI browsers. A lot of foreign language being used with those, but we try to simplify it and just get it as easy to understand as possible. If there's any of that you missed, go to our website, refreshcomputers.net, click the podcast link, and listen back to this episode and any of our other episodes as well, because we've talked about tons and tons of stuff going back years, and it's kind of cool to see how everything kind of has progressed up to this point now. We're talking about data centers in our own backyards and browsers being able to do stuff for us,
And data centers in space.
And data centers in space. So, again, listen to this podcast, and while you're there, look at our inventory. We have our full inventory of laptop and desktop computers there. We are in that tax-free holiday still. So check out the inventory and come by our store tomorrow on Monday if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to help you out. So for this segment, I'm just going to be giving another little quick tip that we've been doing on all of our shows these past couple of months. This one's actually how to check a link before you click on it. This is a big one that I've had a lot of my customers just having trouble with lately. You get a link in an email on your phone, and you don't really know what it's going to be doing. And a lot of scammers actually count on that, so you don't know where it's going to take you or what's going to happen when you go to that link. A lot of times these links can download things in the background that you may not be aware of. They may redirect to a site that is not the one you're wanting to go to. There are a lot of redirect websites now that actually allow people to mask their link. So that's something just to be aware of. I know one of them that was a big name was like AdFly. It's still a name that's used today. So that's a name to be looking out for. If you see that, I wouldn't suggest clicking on it because there's really no way to verify where that link goes until you clicked on it. And that's the problem, is when you click on it, it might already be too late. So if you're on your phone, all you have to do is press and hold on that link. Don't just tap it. When you hold your finger on it, a preview will actually pop up showing the real web address of where it's going to lead to. As long as it's not like a redirect link like AdFly, like I mentioned. If the text claims to be your bank and the preview shows, some random string of letters and a weird ending, that's probably your answer right there. Just
probably not the real thing.
Don't click on it. It'll probably take you somewhere to another scam that'll pretend to be your bank, and that's a whole other mess that you just don't want to get yourself wrapped into. On a computer, there are a couple things you can do for this. You can rest your mouse pointer over the link. Don't click on it, but just put it over it. You'll see the mouse icon change, and just leave it there. If you look in the bottom left or the bottom right corner, you should see a little gray line come up, and that'll actually tell you what the true destination is of that link, where it's going to be going to. And, you give it that same test as you do with the phone. Does the address match the company or business it claims to be? If not, you probably shouldn't click on it. Something that I've noticed as well is that sometimes that little pop-up does not come up in the corner. What I've done to check some links before is what you can do is hover your mouse over it and right-click it. And there's an option that says copy link address. What I will do is I'll actually open a notepad and I'll just paste. I'll right click in the notepad and I'll hit paste, and I'll look at the website right there in that notepad. And if it's something I don't recognize, if it's something really weird, I don't go to it.
Yep. Anything really weird,
Yep.
just in general, probably don't go to it.
Just don't go to it.
Go directly to your bank's website. Go directly to your whichever antivirus program that you already have installed on your computer. Just go directly to their website and see if it's actually something.
And, the golden rule of all, the main one of all, if you don't know, just don't click on the link.
Yeah.
Just don't click on it. You can give us a call, 407-478-8200. You can bring your computer by. We can take a look at it, try to see if it's something legitimate and kind of help out, because in today's digital age, you don't know what's real and what isn't anymore. So I think we're getting to the end of the show for this weekend. Next weekend on Saturday, we'll be getting to you with some new hot topics. These'll be some fun ones next weekend. So this has been Adam Littlefield, and I look forward to speaking to you all again next week.